The Texans organizational chart / structure, the end of June, and a very active day in the NFL. Does it really impact the Texans, plus the most interesting teams in the NFL, and a hell of a lot more? Let's go inside the locker room.
Yeah.
Good live.
Yeah. It's the locker room on YouTube. You know what it is. Let's get it. Hey. Locker room. Yeah, we in the locker room. Texas talk. Yeah, you know what we about to do. Localize every angle's what we really do. We the source. We the pulse of the city too. Landlocked. Got the game in the headlock. Localize every time. Can't stop, won't stop. Yeah, we top 2 and we not too. Plugged in daily digital on YouTube.
We are one sleep away until it is the month of the start of the season. Now, some may say that the season starts in September, but around here, especially with this community, the locker room and SNL community, training camp, you can make a case, is actually the most exciting time. And being on the scene, being there, you get coverage that no one else gets when it comes to that. So the season pretty much starts in July. It's going to be July 23rd. We're 23 days away from the start of the season. A lot of excitement around here, a lot of unknowns, a lot of changes, a lot of things remain the same that you feel really, really good about. But we have one more sleep until training camp, which is one of the best times of the year when it comes to watching the Houston Texans, when it comes to enjoying the NFL season. There's a lot of things that we're going to learn at training camp that will have a lot of people excited, probably have some people nervous, but there's a lot to take in when training camp does begin. 23 days. Also, nice little trip to West Virginia in August. Myself and Cody Stutes, we will be back. We will be in West Virginia. We've both gone. He went in 2017. I went in 2018. And we will be on the scene there, and we'll be streaming live from West Virginia. So just because the Texans are on the road during camp doesn't mean that coverage will start. So we got y'all covered there, and it is going to be a very, very fun time to see what goes down and how it goes down with the Texans. It is, though, kind of the slow time. And you always put out some stuff in June, especially when you do Monday through Friday, no matter what's going on. It's not optional. We're approaching 4 years, and we're actually approaching 1 million hours of listening time on this channel. But a lot of times when you do some things, you get the comment, rightfully so, man, it must be a slow news day. And you can see on the thumbnail, Joe Mixon saying it must be a slow news day. And a lot of times that is the case. And you can make a case that this topic, it's definitely not going to be something that we discuss in July, August, September, October, November, December, or January. But I think we've kind of broken this down a little bit. We just haven't done it in the manner in which I'm about to do it. Shout out to everyone in the chat. Appreciate y'all for rolling through. I kind of brick factoried and put some videos up when I was on vacation. But I definitely needed to recharge because I think June sucks. June's the worst month of the year. It sucks. There's the football's going away. It's a dark days of baseball. We're not even halfway through the baseball season. People are pushing WNBA and all that type of stuff. It's just, it's not fun. The two most blah times in the football content business are 2 weeks before the draft, believe it or not. I think people kind of get a little bit wired down to where they want to recharge. And then business picks back up after just going balls to the wall, talking about it for a couple of months. And then June. Those are the worst months. Easily are the worst time periods when it comes to covering football in pigskin. But as I was sitting here talking, I was talking to someone who works in the corporate field. And I guess they kind of talked to someone at their work, and the person brought up, the organizational chart. And we all know about the organizational chart. A lot of times it's kind of an eye roll because more times than not, the person at the top is in media. A lot of times it's just the one that wasn't talented enough to be able to do anything. And all they're doing is satisfying people who just want to bean count and stuff like that. And a lot of times your boss probably does the least. So you kind of roll your eyes when you're thinking of organizational charts. But I thought about it and I was thinking, not necessarily an organizational chart for the Texans, but an organizational structure for success when it comes to the Texans roster, starting from the most important thing and working our way down to other important things. What would that look like? Because the guy that we talk about the most is obviously the quarterback. And I think what the Texans have done, and I think that what I really want to get across here is that while there are questions about CJ Stroud and what level he can play at, there's reason for optimism. And I also think the Texans have put themselves in position to where, unlike the Baltimore Ravens and unlike the Buffalo Bills, they're not dependent on their quarterback when it comes to reaching the ultimate amount of success in the upcoming season. Now, you might not feel great about what is above him, but they're not CJ Stroud dependent, which I think has been the most frustrating thing for Texans fans as quarterback play has kind of picked up around here, going back to 2017 when Deshaun Watson arrived. And you can hike your leg on Deshaun Watson. I think Deshaun Watson at this point is played quarterback better than any quarterback in franchise history with the Texans. You felt the best about him. Like you were throwing him in conversations with Patrick Mahomes and some sort of rivalry and talking about his surroundings and whatnot. But the frustrating thing was, some of y'all might disagree. You kind of get triggered by it, but it's okay to accept. Well, Deshaun Watson has to save all butts. Deshaun Watson, this team is too dependent on Deshaun Watson. He has to put on heroic efforts. And sometimes even when he puts on heroic efforts, they're going to come up short. And that was really, really frustrating for the Texans fans. And we kind of felt that way, I would say, early on with CJ Stroud. Now, last year, they kind of transformed into a team that kind of had CJ Stroud on an island. And we knew what it looked like for them to win. The defense kind of had to carry the load, and CJ had to make plays here and there. But you weren't completely dependent on it, but you didn't put the quarterback in the best position. So I put together an organizational structure of what I think the ultimate success looks like for the Texans. And this is AFC Championship or more, what it looks like. And I would say at the very top, and I've said this a number of times, I think at the very top, you got to put the defense. The defense is going to be a non-negotiable, tier one, non-negotiable thing for this team to reach that level. And there's a number of reasons. First of all, there's no excuse for them not to be. You have a defensive-minded head coach, and you also have a lot invested in that defense. You have a top 3 pick who's now one of the highest paid corners in the league in Derek Stingley. You have Will Anderson, who you traded multiple first-round picks to go up and get. You have Danielle Hunter, who's one of the highest paid edge guys. You just gave him an extension. You drafted Kamari Lassiter in the second round. You've invested a lot on in this defense, and this defense is very, very close to being top 5 in the league, if not better. And when you factor in, and I asked this question today on SNL, which you can hear live at 4:00, when you factor in that the Texans probably have the best edge duo and the best corner duo in the league, there's not very many times where you can say that's been the case. And over the course of the NFL, it's hard to even name one time where a team had the best edge duo in football and the best corner duo in football. Maybe someone can help me. It's hard for me to even think about when that even possibly happened. Because there have been some good defenses. But the best edge duo and the best corner duo in football, I'm probably going to go back and try to figure this out. It's been a long time. And one of the things that has kind of held the Texans back in the last few years is their return on investment has not paid off. They invested a ton in the offensive line and it didn't pay off. Stuff around it did. Stuff on the other side of the rock did, but it did not pay off. They need to start getting return on investment. And the majority of their investment now is on the defense. And that's why when it comes to the organizational structure for success in 2025, the defense is at the top and it's a non-negotiable. Now the next one, and we remember what it looked like last year with Bobby Slowick.
Damn it, Bobby.
The next one is the offensive system. And I've put a connector right here below the defense. So tier 2 is not, we're not even at CJ Stroud yet, because CJ Stroud is dependent on this offensive system. They have to maximize what they have. And you can see right there, you can see Nick Caley and you can see Cole Popovich, the new offensive line coach. They're going to have to maximize what they got. If your offensive line can't block, you don't leave them on an island and expect them to just block guys one-on-one. You find ways to get rid of the ball quickly. If you become too predictable, then you're leaving your quarterback on an island. Even if CJ Stroud doesn't play elite, if the offensive system is competent, when you factor that in with this defense, that's a 10-win team. CJ Stroud can be the exact same quarterback he was last year. If this defense is better than they were last year, and I think most of us would bet on that, we would anticipate it. It's a non-negotiable. And this offensive system is just a little bit better and a little bit more competent to where they're not making the defense have to bail them out so much. Then the floor for the Texans is 10 wins, no matter what. We haven't even gotten to the quarterback yet. That's how good this thing is shaped up with the Texans when it comes to the top 2 tiers. Then we get to the quarterback. And again, if it's the same thing as it was last year,
damn it, Bobby,
then they don't really stand a chance to take the next step. But then it comes down to CJ Stroud making plays in situations, using his legs more consistently, finding ways to take advantage of those matchups in the slot, making smart decisions, capitalizing on what he says he wanted, which is more freedom at the line of scrimmage. That's not even one of the top 2 things, but it's one of those things that is the third tier. And the good news about this is, regardless of what you say, what you feel about CJ Stroud, where you think CJ Stroud is, he's capable. He's capable of doing these. He's capable of emerging into the top 7, whatever, quarterbacks in the league. But he needs that. But he doesn't really have to. This is not a Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen type of situation. They got decent stuff around him, but for the most part, they have to be heroic when it matters most for their team to win games. CJ Stroud really doesn't have to do that. And I think that's the beauty of this roster, is they're not CJ dependent. They're not CJ dependent. The goal of the Cincinnati Bengals this year was to become less dependent on Joe Burrow, because Joe Burrow had an MVP caliber season last year. Joe Burrow, if the Cincinnati Bengals had a mid defense, then we might be talking about Joe Burrow winning the MVP last year. But they were unable to do that. And now we see that the Cincinnati Bengals they're trying to fix things on defense. They got a lot of drama going on. It's hard to imagine that happening, but they're trying to figure that out. Baltimore and Buffalo, they've been the same team, it feels like, and in that same area for the last few years. Why is that? Because the quarterback has to be Superman for them to win. Now, the quarterback is capable of being Superman, and that's why they've been up there in that knocking on the door area of the Kansas City Chiefs, the area that you can say the Texans are trying to get, but they've still been very dependent. Texans aren't there. I mean, this is a good football team regardless of how CJ Stroud plays. Really, it could be a good football team even if this offensive system is shaky. Is it going to be great? No. So that's why this is the 2025 elite organizational structure. Must be a slow news day. And then the final tier, and this can kind of be overcome, but we got to see what DeMeco's made of when it comes to in-game management. And I'm not just talking about challenges. I'm not just talking about timeouts. I'm talking about last year when Shaq Mason is put back in the starting lineup against the Kansas City Chiefs. And maybe that was another thing that we can blame Bobby for.
Damn it, Bobby.
Whatever that was, you got to figure that out. And if that decision is made, you got to step in and do something. DeMeco's defense is fine. The big part of the reason that your superpower at the top is there, maybe the main reason, is because you have DeMeco Ryans. DeMeco Ryans is one of the best defensive minds in the game, and he's not dependent on personnel. Personnel's elite, that helps, but he gets the most out of guys even when they're out and when guys are banged up. So DeMeco Ryans, number 4, in-game management. We really haven't seen him in situations where he's mismanaged, unless you want to talk about some of the offensive stuff last year, Green Bay.
Damn it, Bobby.
But DeMeco Ryans in-game management is number 4. So those are the 4 elite organizational structure. That is the chart right there. The defense is number 1. The offensive system is number 2. Defense is non-negotiable. Defense has to be really, really good. Offensive system, non-negotiable. Has to be good, but can be overcome at times with CJ Stroud. There has to be a balance, a give and take between the offensive system and the quarterback. You don't want to ask him to do it all the time. You don't want to put him on an island to where he's getting his ass kicked and talking about not having fun in the middle of the season like last year. But it can be overcome. 2 and 3 can be interchangeable. If they're both gelling, then you're on to something, especially with that defense. And then in-game management, we'll just have to see how that goes with DeMeco Ryans and what happens. But those are the 4 keys to the ultimate elite success, going somewhere where they've never gone before, the Houston Texans, AFC Championship game, or even further on. That's it. To the side, we have things that they have no control of, and that's health. You see a picture of Nico Collins. We know Nico's been kind of banged up. Joe Mixon could also be there as well. Health and luck. I remember Joe Mixon last year heading into the playoffs said you need luck as much as anything. That was what Joe Mixon had to say. So those are 2 things that a lot of times, hell, they can be the most important things, but you have no control of those. They have control of the defense. You feel good about that. The offensive system they have control of. We don't know if that's a good thing or not. CJ Stroud, we know he's going to be able to control what he can control. He says he wants to actually focus more on controlling what he can control. And then the in-game management just kind of happens with DeMeco Ryans, which we know is good on one side of the rock. Other side of the rock, not so great. Now, maybe we can go back to blaming
Damn it, Bobby.
But that's neither here nor there. So that is the organizational structure. The defense is the straw that stirs the drink. The defense is why you're a 8-9 win football team no matter what happens with the offense. We've seen that with BOB. We've seen that with Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh kind of feels like they've been in that situation for a while. My God, they made some moves. We'll get into those in a second. Kind of feels a little bit familiar. And then the quarterback, who you feel good about, but the system has to be good. And then things that you might not be able to control. So that's just kind of where it is with the Texans. On the super chat,
You ain't never hate.
Swarm.
HDAV Traveler says, evening, Landry and friends. Evening to you, my friend. Happy to be back. Appreciate you for rolling through. Yeah, I don't know if the damn it Bobby button is ever going to die. Very popular. We'll have to see. Hopefully there's not a like Nick. I don't know. This kind of has a good feel though. Then this one,
Nick.
Nick Cayley, Nick Casario. You can go a number of ways. Nick Chubb now. That one kind of has a good feel. It doesn't have the negative connotation of the damn it Bobby. So that's where the Texans are when it comes to structure. It's the defense. It's all about the defense for sure. And we know that the teams that the Texans are competing with, Is Pittsburgh a threat to the Texans? When it comes to teams that you're competing with in the AFC, we list them all the time. Kansas City, Baltimore, you're trying to get on that level. Baltimore, John Harbaugh owns DeMeco Ryans, owns DeMeco Ryans, and the Ravens own the Texans. Lamar owns CJ. Chiefs, we know Chiefs are the Chiefs. Bills, I know the Texans beat the Bills last year, but the Bills have been playing at a higher level for a longer time than the Texans have. It's only been a couple years. Then we start talking about the Broncos. We start talking about the Chargers. Cincinnati, I guess we can put up there, even though the defense was as bad as it was. We can put them in there because they've been to a Super Bowl recently-ish. Conference championships recently-ish. Where are the Steelers in all this? Because the Steelers feel to me, they feel a lot like they're on the mediocre treadmill that the Texans were on for. Really, the Texans have been on that mediocre treadmill since the franchise started. It's been a mediocre franchise. I've heard Mark Vandermeer get mad about that on 610. Oh, mediocre. Yeah, it's mediocre. You never been to an AFC championship game. The strong majority have. But Pittsburgh's on that mediocre treadmill where you never think they're going to suck, but you never really take them serious as some sort of Super Bowl contender. And right now they have a revolving door of changing quarterbacks, going all in, like almost at a laughable level. The Pittsburgh Steelers, to me, it feels like the Pittsburgh Steelers are just trying to make do, and there's really not much of a threat to what Pittsburgh does. And today they added Jalen Ramsey and they added Jonnu Smith. My God, Arthur Smith wanted Jonnu Smith. He just could not be without him for much longer. We know he loved him in Tennessee. We know he loved him in Atlanta. So the Steelers add Jalen Ramsey, the ghost of Jalen Ramsey. Still a good football player. Not great. He's not one of the best corners in the league like he was in 2017. Some may disagree. But they add Jalen Ramsey and they add Jonnu Smith. They've also brought in Aaron Rodgers, and they traded for DK Metcalf. Got rid of George Pickens. They're throwing all their chips on the table. Pittsburgh is. But those aren't black chips. Those aren't the $100 black chips that you see. Are these even $5 chips that Pittsburgh's throwing on the table? Like, does anyone in their right mind? What are the odds for Pittsburgh right now to win the Super Bowl? I mean, it's got to still be in the 30s, right? Looking at Vegas Insider right now. They're still 40-1. The Pittsburgh Steelers are still 41. Texans are 30-1. So Texans aren't great. ESPN Bet has them at 25-1. I mean, you can get Pittsburgh at 40-1, 50-1. Like I heard today, and I saw some people saying, well, Pittsburgh's going all in. Okay. I mean, what does that really mean? What does it really mean that the Pittsburgh Steelers are going all in? All in for what? To make the playoffs? To do what they've done the last few years? Which is just kind of meddle in that area. Pittsburgh's not that much of a threat. I look at the Steelers and I just say, at the very least, they're interesting, but they're not a threat. They're not in that tier. They're not as good as Denver. They're not as good as the Chargers. They're not as good as the Texans. They might not even be as good as the Jags at this point with what the Jags have done and the Jags have had. So I don't look at Pittsburgh as really a threat. Yeah, they're throwing their chips in the table. Good for them. Those are some raggedy ass chips. Maybe dollar chips, honestly. So I don't look at Pittsburgh as much of a threat. Let's get to the 5 most interesting teams in the league coming up in a sec. We're going to go through the comments first. But if I asked you people, and I do mean you people, who do you think are the 5 most interesting teams in the league? And I'm gonna make a definition of interesting, like something that you haven't seen. Like there are good teams, but we got a pretty good idea of what some of these teams are about, and we know what the success looks like, and we know what failure looks like. But if I asked you, who are the 5 most interesting teams in the league, who would your 5 be? Give me your 5.
He is the most interesting man in the world.
Man, by the way, Dos Equis does not hit as hard since they got rid of that most interesting man thing. Doesn't it feel like they just fell off? It's one of the best ad campaigns of all time, and Dos Equis just got rid of the most interesting man. I don't know what they were thinking. It's kind of like when Dave died. Wendy sucks without Dave. I don't know what KFC's excuse is. They've fallen off. They used to have the best hot wings in the game back in the 25 years. People wouldn't even believe me. I know some of y'all have probably had some of those KFC hot wings from back in the day. Paper box. Way back in the day. 90s. They fell off. But man, Dos Equis. Get rid of that most interesting man thing. And it's gone. Christian said, Landry, what's good? Missed you too. Was on the stream. Gustavo says, glad to finally watch a stream live. Working them 7-14. Don't leave time for nothing. Respect the grind. Shout out to Pedro. Primetime V, I don't know if this is a good thing or not. He says, I know how to distract you from schoolwork. Yes, I do. Sometimes I might not be able to do much, but I can definitely distract you from schoolwork. That's not. Are there any rumors on the Texans? This isn't really a rumor type of stream. I don't know. I haven't heard any rumors, hot rumors, trades. Ain't this type of channel? I'll get to some off-topic stuff later. Brandon says, slow news topic. But did the Jags draft Travis Hunter because they don't want Trevor Lawrence to be the face of the franchise anymore? I think you're joking. Travis Hunter, we might hear about the Jags in the top 5 most interesting teams, but no, I think they just wanted the best receiver in the draft. They wanted a good player. KD saved my June. Rockets are making some moves right now. They're doing a good job. They've started out pretty hot. Bringing back Capella. They got Dodo coming here too now as a role guy. Yeah, so they're doing their thing. Shout out to Italo, HD. Bobby Slowick is going to be looking for a new job. Yes, the Miami Dolphins are dead. Miami Dolphins are 100% dead. It might be, he might not make it. He might not make it to the end of the season. That's a dead coach walking. I like Mike McDaniel's hokiness. I think he does have a good offensive mind. He just completely pandered to his players and just kind of made a slob of himself, like a goofball. Like, it's one thing to hit the pin. I'm down with that. I'm down with that.
High-grade marijuana called Kush on the streets.
Well, I mean, when you're hitting the pin on the sidelines and you're not even like walking away and trying to hide it, you got the pants rolled up and you just look like a slob. You don't look like a leader. Some of the stuff that he said to defend Tyreek Hill last year, I thought was weird. When Tyreek Hill was speeding or whatever, it's a dumpster fire. Nobody respects him. I think even Raheem Mostert, who's known him for a while, called out the Dolphins. You have Jalen Ramsey refusing to play. Jonnu Smith, who's one of the guys you've done a pretty good job with. He's gone. I mean, it's a dumpster fire. The Dolphins are an absolute dumpster fire. And Mike McDaniel, there were questions about whether he was professional enough to be a head coach. They had a nice run, but it's that shelf life is done. They're dead. So pour one out for the Miami Dolphins, if they're even worth pouring one out for. It's not like it was something great. So they're done. Bye-bye. Knuckles asks, am I delusional for thinking we can spank everybody? Only team I want to beat for real is Baltimore. I mean, the Texans can win any game any given Sunday. I don't think there's going to be any games where the Texans are like some sort of significant underdog. Now, in the NFL, there's not usually heavy underdogs. It's not college. But I don't think we're going to get in a situation where the Texans are even like beyond one possession dogs, even against the elite teams in the league. The defense is great. That's why you feel good about this organizational structure. You feel great right there at the top. Defense. Feel good about it. So I don't think you're delusional. Spank, maybe, but don't know about that. Health is always a concern. Cameron says he's concerned about health. I think every team is. Every team's impacted by it. So health that's the one guarantee in football. If there's any team in the league, like if you gave any team in the league the ability to play Madden and just turn those injuries off, I think any team in the league, if you can just fully turn off the injuries, they'd be awesome. There's always going to be injuries. You're always going to hear it. Some are more significant than others. Not necessarily an excuse. A lot of times it's just a reason, but it happens. Like there's not a football fan that you'll talk to by the time we get to week 9, 10, whatever. It's going to be talking about, man, if this guy had played or that guy had played, or, this guy's hurt and we lost this game because of that. It happens. You got to be able to overcome it. D'Amico's able to do it. The offensive staff's going to have to be able to figure it out, and hopefully the injuries, little knockage on the wood, hopefully the injuries are less significant, but it's the only guarantee in football. Dangerous-ass game. 100% dangerous-ass game. Ain't no doubt about it. We're getting some good answers on the top 5 squads, top 5 most interesting squads. Denver, Seattle, Carolina, Daniel has. Todd says Cleveland. Shedeur Sanders starts 10 games while getting bashed by the media every day. I don't know if Shedeur starts 10 games. That would be interesting. I could see Cleveland just being good with a quarterback not named Shedeur. Doesn't that seem Kevin Stefanski-ish? I mean, they went to the playoffs a couple years ago with Flacco. Baker Mayfield got him to the playoffs. Kevin Stefanski is a 2-time coach of the year for a reason. I'm not am I sitting here saying that Cleveland's going to win the North? Hell no. But doesn't it just kind of feel like with Kevin Stefanski that, I don't know, like, are they starting Pickett? Just one of these quarterbacks just ends up starting and he ends up doing his thing. The Lions bore me. I indirectly have the Lions on my list, but it's not the actual Lions. I do think there's kind of a snowball effect for them. So you can kind of follow that a little bit. Cincinnati's offense, we know what it is. I don't know that Cincinnati's offense is really even interesting. It's awesome. Like, we know that. So not as interesting. Frank says Dos Equis is still his go-to. Hey, if you're loyal to it, you're loyal to it. I know a lot of Bud Light drinkers. I know some people who didn't drink Bud Light because of the controversy a while ago, but hey, your beer's your beer. I'm a Miller Lite guy and I'm kind of a craft guy. I've kind of transformed into kind of like a craft guy, but Miller Lite, ooh, you give me a 30. That's all I need for a Saturday or Sunday. Usually gone by the second matchup. I remember the Colts Patriots, where the Colts finally got over the hump. Went over to my boys, brought a little Miller Lite 30. They're kind of surprised that it was all gone by the end of the game. It was, though. But yeah, I'm a Miller Lite guy. Like Dos Equis. I actually like Corona Light. And the Hispanics always call me soft for that.
Race car!
I like the Corona Light. Why is Corona Light so hard to find, too? Why do the gas stations in the stores, they have all the Corona Extra? They even got Corona Premier, but Corona Light's hard to find. Seems like they have it in the cans. They don't necessarily have it in the bottles. But shout out to Dos Equis. You got to have the salt, too. Paul says Bengals, Commanders, Broncos, Falcons, Bucks are his most interesting teams. I know what the Bengals are. On defense, I do wonder what that's going to look like. Commanders, you kind of want to see how they're going to bounce back. They've made some moves. How Debo looks is interesting. His weight's gotten a lot of attention. Broncos, stay tuned. Atlanta, Michael Penix, full-time starter. And then Bucks, I kind of feel like I know what the Bucks are. Although Ibuka's getting a lot of love out there from Baker Mayfield. He says he's a plug and play guy. So here are my Miller Lite is like drinking water. There's always the hipster, man. There's always the hipster. Todd says, as a 42-year-old, I've moved on to Michelob Ultra because I drink a 12-pack and my metabolism isn't what it used to be. Respect that. And very much respect that. So the 5 most interesting teams in the NFL. My list. I respect y'all's lists, but this is my list. 5 most interesting teams in the NFL. And the Steelers will appear on the list. They're just not going to be the number 5. Number 5 is the Patriots. I want to see what Drake May's got for all the talk about, not surrounding CJ Stroud with enough talent and the offensive line not doing its job and kind of having a lost cause at offensive coordinator. Drake May was kind of on an island last year, and Drake May actually kind of balled out. Drake May was perhaps the second best rookie quarterback last year, despite his bad surroundings. And there were times where Drake May looked the part. Now, he was getting his butt whooped, and he really didn't have guys to throw to. And they had a head coach who should have never been a head coach. But the Patriots are interesting, and they're adding some talent around them. They committed to the offensive line. They added a coach that we know very well around here in Mike Vrabel, who I have the utmost respect for. He's already going full hard ass there. They added Stephon Diggs. They added some other things. Had a pretty good draft. Patriots are interesting, and that's a crap division. And if we just had a funeral for the Miami Dolphins and we just poured one out for the Miami Dolphins, then who benefits from that? The team in their division, the Patriots. Do you think Buffalo is stale? Seems like a lot of people do around here. Who benefits from that? The Patriots. I'm not sitting here saying that I think that the Patriots are going to make the playoffs, but I think Mike Vrabel's a good coach. Mike Vrabel, you look at what happened with Ryan Tannehill, and here's the other thing about it. We can say what we want about Josh McDaniels and him being a head coach. He shouldn't be a head coach. That's been proven. But man, he did a hell of a job with Tom Brady, obviously, which is easier said than done. But Tom Brady played his best ball with Josh McDaniels. And more recently, Mac Jones had a hell of a rookie season when Josh McDaniels was the OC for the Patriots. And that was the reason why Las Vegas gave him another chance, because of what he did with Mac Jones. Now he's the offensive coordinator for Drake May. I think New England's an interesting team. I think it's a very interesting team to see what Vrabel can do, what Mac Jones can do, and what Drake May can do. So my number 5 most interesting team is the Patriots. Number 4 is the Steelers. Are the Steelers a contender? I just don't think so. But Aaron Rodgers is always going to move the needle. Jalen Ramsey's on the team now. TJ Watt's kind of pissed off. We know that they're going to be on national TV. I haven't even looked, but it's probably like 7 times. Pittsburgh's an interesting squad. They're more interesting than they've been in a while. It's much more interesting than Russell Wilson or Justin Fields at quarterback or Kenny Pickett or all the other crap they've done since Ben Roethlisberger. They're interesting. They're going to move the needle. Are they good? Yeah, they're okay. But they're not great. But they are very, very, very interesting. So that's the number 4 team. Number 3, the Jags. Maybe I'm looking at this too much through localized lenses. I don't know if too many teams care about too many people, media types care about the Jags. I'm kind of intrigued. I think this Liam Cohen guy might have something. The more I hear about him, the more impressed I am with what he may offer. Sean McVay hired him twice. He got Baker Mayfield to play in, 4 days? Went to Tampa Bay. Baker continued to play at a high level, and Jacksonville hired him. Jacksonville might just be lucking into hiring a really, really good coach. I think he's definitely one of the most interesting newcomers. Is he going to make Trevor Lawrence elite? I don't know that he has to. They got some pretty decent weapons on offense. I think Brian Thomas Jr., we've talked about him. Travis Hunter, I think he was the best receiver in this draft. Jags are an interesting squad. Maybe that's just me being a little bit too close to the situation and looking at it too much through localized lenses. But it's my list, damn it. Number 2, the Broncos. So I saw Field Yates tweet this out the other day. And I hate Sean Payton. I don't like Sean Payton. I wanted no part of Sean Payton with the Texans. I think draft compensation for Sean Payton was a joke. I think Drew Brees was a good quarterback before he went and saw Sean Payton. But I got to admit when I was wrong, or when I'm at least intrigued. And I did not think Bo Nix was going to be a good NFL quarterback. I kind of rolled my eyes at Denver's selecting of him, and he balled out last year. Mobile, competitive, good arm. And they have a really, really good defense. They have a really, really, really good defense. Their defense actually statistically was ahead of the Texans last year. When we talked a lot of good things about this Texans defense. But statistically, theirs was ahead. And they've actually added pieces to that defense in the offseason. Other thing that Sean Payton's done a really good job of is, while we break down the Texans organizational structure, and I say CJ Stroud is dependent on an offensive system and the offensive line, Field Yates put out that they were actually first in pass block win rate, and they were first in run block win rate on the offensive line. So the offensive line and the defense, which is the opposite of Sean Payton's specialty, we think of him as an offensive guy, they've done well. And he's also done a good job of making a lot of idiots like me look stupid when it comes to Bo Nix. Meanwhile, here in Houston, you feel good about DeMeco Ryans, but CJ Stroud, regression in year 2. Struggled on the offensive line, no return on investment there. And the hope right now for the offense is really based on an unknown. It's not based on a good body of work. So will that be DeMeco Ryans' kryptonite? We don't know. There's uncertainty. But there's reason for optimism on the other side of the ball when it comes to Sean Payton. So as someone who was the biggest Sean Payton hater in the world during the hiring process 3 years ago, and I wanted the Texans to hire DeMeco, I wanted no part of Sean Payton, I got to give him some credit. And I got to say, I'm interested to see what the hell Bo Nix looks like in year 2. I'm not ready to eat crow in bulk, but I am very interested to see how he handles his year 2. Because that's supposed to be Sean Payton's specialty. They've added some stuff there as well. So we'll see how this whole thing plays out. But I think the Denver Broncos are really interesting. And if you're looking at like a dark horse bet, and we always are around here, I'm almost intrigued to bet on the Denver Broncos to win the AFC West. I'd actually look at those odds right now. I bet they're not even that high because of what their off season's been. Am I getting too high on Sean Payton? Because I don't mind admitting when, maybe I was wrong about something. But I just feel like the Broncos got some good things going right now. Really good things going. Especially on the other side of the rock. So we look at the Broncos right now. The Broncos to make the playoffs, they're minus 135. So 135 to 100. Their regular season win total is at 9.5. And you actually can get, if you have the over, you can get even money. So they're not too high on the Broncos. So I'm a little bit higher on the Broncos than the actual smart people in Vegas. They have the same win total as Washington. Denver does. I like what Denver's got going. I'm a fan of what Denver's got going at. I'll sprinkle a little something on Denver over 10 wins. We'll put 45 on that. Why not? Put 45 on Denver. Boom. 45 to win 45. 10 wins. Did I just throw away money? I at least put my money where my mouth was there, though. The most interesting team. Can you guess where I'm going with this? So I got the Patriots, I got the Steelers, I got the Jags, just to reset. 5 New England, 4 Pittsburgh, 3 Jags, 2 Broncos. Can't say Texans. Of course, I'm interested in the Texans. I cover the squad. I'm at every practice, blah, blah, blah. But where am I going with this? Who is the most interesting team in the NFL? And they're going to get a lot of run too. They're going to get a lot of attention this offseason. There's zero doubt about it. Bradley, ding, ding, ding. The Bears. The Bears. Remember when Ryan Poles was basically leaking every conversation he ever had and kind of touting himself as the best general manager in the world? And I like what the Bears did. Look, the Texans pissed away that number 1 overall pick, and I don't call that a blessing. I call that poor execution. If you thought C.J. Stroud was better than Bryce Young, then you don't even leave chance that you don't get him. I was a Bryce Young guy, whatever. That's neither here nor there, but you don't even leave chance. That was poorly executed, and the Bears were able to capitalize on it, and they ended up trading out, and then they ended up getting the number 1 pick, and they got Caleb Williams. Here's the problem. Caleb Williams, now we're talking about if he wants to be coached. We're talking about Caleb Williams didn't want to be a Bear. Not only that, the most highly coveted assistant coach in football when it comes to getting a head coaching gig for the last couple of years has been Ben Johnson, and Chicago ends up landing Ben Johnson. They also have invested heavily in the offensive line. They're in that spot that the Texans were in where you're trying to take advantage of a quarterback on his rookie deal. Now you got to figure out if that quarterback's worth a shit in Caleb Williams. Also got to figure out about these weapons. But my God, the Bears are interesting. And I think there's kind of a snowball effect here because I think the Lions, the arrow's pointing down on the Lions. I think they've kind of missed their window. I do not think that it's just going to be you don't miss a beat with a new offensive coordinator. I don't think Jared Goff's that type of quarterback. There's a reason Sean McVay basically begged the Lions to take Jared Goff when they traded for Matthew Stafford. There's a reason that they won a Super Bowl right after that. And we've seen Goff really late in the season for the Lions when they've needed him the most. There's not any superhuman effort. And I don't even know how dependent they are on him, but he hasn't been as good as he was in the regular season in some of these performances. Now, it was the meltdown a couple of years ago. You don't blame him for that, but he was kind of struggling last year at the end of the season when it mattered most. We'll see what that looks like. But the Bears, man, we got to check this out. There's reason for optimism, and I think Caleb's going to be pretty good. But as we continue to localize it, doesn't Ryan Poles kind of have like a Chris Ballard type of vibe to him? You remember when Chris Ballard was basically acting like he was God's gift to football? And remember when they had the rivalry with the Patriots? All right, the rivalry's on. Brother, the rivalry? Come on, Peyton Manning's gone. What do you mean the rivalry? And Chris Ballard was every media type's favorite GM, and he's just completely fallen off after kind of tooting his own horn. Now, Andrew Luck's retirement did have a lot to do with that. But Ryan Poles, GM of the Bears, we'll see what that looks like. But are they going to be good? I think they'll be a lot better. I think there's potential there. But they're definitely interesting. That's one of the more interesting squads for sure. There is no doubt about that. I did not see Bryce Young and CJ Stroud on the Peyton Manning podcast. Someone says that that it looks silly. Could happen. Do I have an update on Jimmy Ward? I don't. I think they're going to ride this out. I think they're going to ride this out and see what happens with Jimmy Ward. I don't think D'Amico's just going to turn his back on him. There's a lot of talk about the whole situation. Jimmy's attorney has said what he said, which is that he's going to get proven that Jimmy Ward is what we thought he was, which was really a good guy. And that the truth will come out. I don't know how this is going to end up. I do think they're going to ride it out. I don't think they're just going to release him. And D'Amico and him have been together since 2017. And he's really given, I don't know that he's really given D'Amico a reason to not believe. So I think they're going to ride it out with the Jimmy Ward. So I have no update on that. It will probably be one of the first questions that D'Amico's asked. I would hope. I'll be there, so I'll ask it if no one else wants to ask it. But yeah, we'll check that out. And when we know, we'll know at the same time. Thoughts on Texas State going to the Pac-12? It is what it is. It's not, the Pac-12 is kind of dead. But it's good for Texas State. It's cool. Be playing late, right? Any success for Texas State is good. Texas State's a great school. That's where I had to take the GSP, grammar, spelling, punctuation, in journalism school. So shout out to Texas State. It's always you're always going to a badass school whenever you can float the river between classes. So good for Texas State. They've been playing some good ball. And can't wait for the Pac-12. Vacation was fantastic. Flagstaff's very relaxing, very enjoyable. We were at the resort, probably about 30 deep, wife's family, 30 deep. We were right next to a couple pools. There was a par 3 golf course, which was real small, but like 70-yard par 3s, which I don't really like golf, so I played that. We went to the Grand Canyon. I enjoyed it very much. It was fun. Happy to be back, though. Very recharged. Because June sucks. It's the worst month of the year. June sucks. It's terrible. I hate it. It's one of the last things that one of my old bosses told me. I didn't like him. He didn't really like me. But it was basically, God, he was a weasel. He's fine. It's cool. But, what advice would you give me? Just don't burn yourself out. June, you try to overcompensate in June. Some don't, but you try to overcompensate. And I'm just glad we got 35 minutes left in June. Then we're into July. July's awesome. 4th of July, fireworks, all that stuff. Speaking of which, my old fireworks boss actually texted me while we're here. He's doing some crazy stuff out there. Flinging all kinds of fireworks. Yeah, look at this. They just put this up. See, he's crazy. So he owns like 4 10,000 square foot warehouses. But I guess they just put up this black cat thing out there. I think that thing's probably about 40 feet high. He's always buying like the crazy stuff. But yeah, I love July. Hate June. Absolutely hate it. To reset the Texans organizational elite chart, tier 1 defense, that's a non-negotiable. It's got to be good. And it should be good. You got D'Amico Ryans. You've invested heavily in defense. So tier 1, we'll go defense. Tier 2, the offensive system. CJ Stroud is dependent on the offensive system. Last year, it did not go well. We all know it. 2 words kind of explain the frustration.
Damn it, Bobby.
And now you're going to be dependent on Mr. Nick. Nick Casario's guy, Nick Caley, but you're dependent on him. So tier 2 is the offensive system. Tier 3, the QB, CJ Stroud. You're not CJ Stroud dependent. You're going to reach the ultimate goal. You probably need him to play well. There also needs to be some give and take in the offensive system because I don't think that with this personnel that you can necessarily expect. You can expect a decent offense, perhaps. It's going to come down to the offensive line, but you can't just expect Nick Caley to come in here and look like Ben Johnson. It's going to be some sort of process. He's just going to have to make do with what he's got. He's going to have to be a little bit MacGyverish. Hopefully he's not having to, turn a hanger into a freaking machine gun or whatever like MacGyver. But hopefully he's able to make do there. And then D'Amico in game. Shaq Mason starting the last game of the season is dumb. Hopefully you figure that out. And whenever he has to make decisions, clock management, hopefully he can figure that out. And then the miscellaneous health and luck. So that's the organizational structure with the Texans. You got a hell of a defense. You're not CJ dependent. Do you have a good offensive coordinator? To be determined. There's reason for optimism. There's reason for skepticism. And quite frankly, we'll see how the whole thing goes when it comes to that. So that's the beauty of it. We're about to be in July, the month of the season. What are the Raiders' chances of making the playoffs? Bradley asks. Don't know. I would say, I bet you could get some pretty good odds on it if you think they will. I mean, Geno, you can do a lot worse than Geno. It's a tough one. But that's why they play the game, which they will be handling their business pretty soon. We're 23 days away from training camp. Open practice is 6. They got the tickets. I don't know if they sold out or not. They seem to be pretty popular. Although it does seem like people were able to go multiple times. So we'll see what they do with that. The joint practice, they're going to practice with the Carolina Panthers here. And then they'll practice with against the Detroit Lions up there in Detroit. Some people say they missed the ticket window. Sorry about that, man. It sucks. Because it's a fun time. Open practices are sick. I don't think y'all understand. Like in season, the practices are boring as hell. And they kick our ass out quick. D'Amico's got the New England Patriot vibe, man. Some media types get to watch a little bit more practice. D'Amico and Caserio, they do the bullshit, like line up different types of things. They want that edge stuff. And they kick us out pretty quickly. Kind of sucks sometimes. You can kind of see a few things, but you really don't see a lot. But they kick it out. But you're there for the whole time when the open practices are going on, and you're also there the whole time during training camp, so you can watch every play. And those are the more intense practices too. There's jobs on the line, etc. You're learning about players. Those are fun. In-season practice, boring. And they make it as boring as possible. And they also hold you by the balls when it comes to media availability. It's neither here nor there. That's a media type complaint. Don't worry about it. We're just on D'Amico's schedule and them. Preston says, what's good? It's been a minute. Shout out to Preston, my guy. It's all good, man. It's been a week. We were dropping videos during the day, but yeah, it's been a week. It has been. Shout out to Preston, the man, the myth, the legend. 10-2. We going 10-2 on the truck. We got a lot of truck drivers. Shout out to all the truck drivers out there. Preston, I don't think Preston's a 10-2. Preston's more like a 12. He's probably like a 12, and then when he's kind of getting tired, maybe like he might even be like a 5.7. The hands on the wheel. What are we rolling with there, Preston? How you driving? How you riding? Shout out to Webby. Appreciate everyone for coming through. Be sure to subscribe. Be sure to like. Be sure to ride along. Sam says that they're reselling practice tickets. How much they charging? That's a damn shame. It's one thing for these sick ass ticket brokers to be recharging and stuff like that for real games. You're a sick ass mofo. If you're $40, come on, guys. Just stay out of the way. Let the people go watch practice. That's a joke. That's pathetic. That's you're a scumbag if you're buying practice tickets to resell them. Get out of the way of the diehards. Some diehards can't even afford to go to games. And you're taking those and reselling them. You're a loser. Appreciate y'all for coming through. Be sure to subscribe. Be sure to like. Be sure to ride along. Be sure to always remember, when it comes to this Texan stuff, even if you are a slime ball that's scooping up practice tickets and reselling them, when it comes to this Texan stuff, we're all in it together. Let me know what I did wrong with the organizational structure, most interesting teams, and thank God we are 25 minutes away from the worst month of the year being done. R.I.P. June. F you. Appreciate y'all for coming through.
Taste for days, opinions to give, we got takeaways. If it's up, then it's up. We number one. You don't need to try your luck. Locker room, yeah, we in the locker room. Texas talk, yeah, you know what we about to do. Localize every angle's what we really do. We the source, we the pulse of the city too.